I'm Camille. I'm 32, and the day my best friend accused me of stealing from her was the same day I realized she'd never been my friend at all. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you thought was family, leave a comment. And hit subscribe, because this story, it gets dark. I met Tasha 9 years ago, when I was 23, working part-time at a vintage clothing boutique in Atlanta. I had just moved from Augusta with two suitcases, $300 in my checking account, and a pile of unpaid student loans breathing down my neck. I was crashing on an air mattress in the back of a stranger's apartment, found through a Facebook group called Girls New to ATL, and my days were split between trying not to cry at work and pretending like I was living some brave, independent city girl life. Tasha strolled into that boutique on a rainy Tuesday like she owned the block. She had a swagger that didn't belong to anyone under 35, and yet there she was, maybe late 20s, definitely polished, absolutely intimidating in her nude Louboutins and tailored white trench. She pulled off her sunglasses like she was in a music video, shook her curls loose, and smiled at me with the kind of confidence I'd only seen on magazine covers. "Y'all carry vintage Chanel?" she asked. Raising an eyebrow, I told her we had some dupes and a couple of real pieces, but nothing like what she was describing. She nodded, drifted toward the back, and reappeared 10 minutes later with 3 dresses slung over her arm. As I rang her up, she asked if I was from around here. I told her I was new to the city. She smirked and said, "Figures. You got that look, like you don't know whether to run or take over." She handed me her number and told me to text her if I ever wanted to go to a real party. I didn't text her that night. Or the night after. But a week later, when I hit my breaking point, my roommate had eaten my groceries without asking, and I got my first parking ticket because I didn't understand the permit zones. I pulled up her contact and typed out, "Still feel like taking over the city?" She replied within a minute, "Pick you up at 8. Wear something tight." That night, we went to an art gallery opening downtown. Not the kind with cheese cubes and red Solo cups. This was the real deal. Exposed brick, champagne flutes, people speaking in hushed tones about texture and form. Tasha knew half the room. She introduced me as her baby sister. Even though we were only 3 years apart, she's new in town. She told everyone. "Watch this one. She's got bite." That was how it started. I was the new girl, and she was the queen bee. And God help me, I was grateful. Tasha had a way of making you feel like you were the center of the universe, right up until you weren't. She worked in PR, not the Instagram influencer kind, the real kind. Celebrity clients, political campaigns, lifestyle brands. She was always in heels, always in motion, and she seemed to float above the rest of us. She'd pick me up in her Mercedes and tell me stories about rubbing elbows with Atlanta royalty. She let me borrow her dresses, taught me how to walk in heels without looking like a baby deer, and introduced me to a world I never thought I'd have access to. At first, I played my role perfectly. I was the funny one, the supportive one, the girl in the background, cheering her on. I did her makeup before events, helped her pick out outfits, even stayed up late editing photos for her press kits because she said I had an eye. She encouraged my side hustle, told me I had talent. "Girl, you could be beating the faces of celebrities," she said one night as I contoured her cheekbones in her downtown loft. "You just need one good break." That break came 6 months later. One of her PR clients, a new skincare brand, needed a makeup artist for a product launch. Tasha recommended me to IT. Was the biggest job I'd ever booked. I showed up with my little black kit, hands trembling, heart pounding, and I killed it. The models looked flawless. The client was thrilled. 2 of the influencers at the event pulled me aside and asked for my card. I didn't even have one. I scribbled my number on the back of a napkin and told myself I'd order business cards the next day. That job led to another. And another. Word of mouth spread fast in Atlanta's beauty scene, and within a year, I had enough freelance gigs to quit retail. I started working from home, then renting a chair in a tiny salon in Midtown. Eventually, I partnered with another artist and opened a small studio. I was working 12-hour days, sleeping maybe 5, and still, I never felt more alive. But that's when things with Tasha started to shift. It was subtle at first. She stopped reposting my work on her social media. When I told her about a celebrity stylist who DM'd me after seeing one of my looks, she shrugged and said, "Just be careful. These people don't always mean what they say." When I invited her to the grand opening of my studio, she showed up an hour late, wearing all black like she was attending a funeral. She barely smiled. She said the lighting was harsh and suggested I use a filter before posting any interior shots. Then, in front of a room full of potential clients, she asked if I was charging enough to actually pay my rent. I laughed it off, of course. I always did, because I loved her, because she was my best friend, because I thought I needed to believe that she had my back. Looking back, there were 1,000 signs. The way she always needed to be the one helping, not the one watching me succeed. The way she'd compliment me and cut me down in the same breath. The way she insisted on calling me her protege, even after my client list tripled in size. Then came the day everything shattered. It was a Saturday in late March. We were getting ready for a mutual friend's engagement dinner. I was doing Tasha's makeup in her bathroom, the usual pre-event ritual. She was sipping a mimosa and scrolling through her phone, barely paying attention as I blended her foundation. "Can you do my lashes too?" she asked. Like always, I nodded, applied the glue, and pressed them on with the same precision I always used. Afterward, I went to the living room to grab my purse and phone while she changed into her dress. I scrolled Instagram, answered a few client messages, and took a quick mirror selfie. 10 minutes later, she came out of the bathroom looking pale. "Shaken, Camille," she said, voice low. "Did you go in my bag?" I looked up, confused. "What?" "My purse. There was an envelope with $1,000 in cash. It's gone." I laughed, thinking she was joking. "What?" "No. Why would I? You're the only person who's been here." I blinked. My mouth went dry. "Tasha, are you accusing me of stealing from you?" She stared at me for a long time. Too long. I don't know what else to think. Her voice trembled, but there was no apology in it. No disbelief. Just cold accusation. I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. "I didn't touch your purse," I said, stepping back. "I don't even know where you put it." She nodded slowly, like she was trying to convince herself of something. Then she shook her head. "I need space," she whispered. "You should go." She didn't let me explain. Didn't look at me. Just turned and walked back into her room. I stood there for a minute. Long enough for the tears to start falling. Then I grabbed my kit and left. On the drive home, I was shaking. Not just from anger, but from the realization that something had been building. This wasn't random. It wasn't just a moment of panic or confusion. Tasha had been planning this, and when I finally put the pieces together, what she took from me, what she tried to destroy, I knew I had to respond. Not with an apology, with revenge. That I didn't sleep the night she accused me. I lay on my couch, staring at the ceiling in my tiny one-bedroom apartment, replaying her words over and over again like a record stuck in the same scratch. "Did you go in my bag?" The way she'd said it. Quiet. Calculated. Like she already knew what answer she wanted. I thought about all the times I'd done her makeup for free, helped her pick out outfits, stayed up late fixing her pitch decks. I thought about how many times she'd called me her sister in front of people who barely knew my name. And now I was a thief. No one had ever accused me of stealing. Not in my entire life. Not even as a broke college student splitting ramen with 3 roommates. And Tasha, of all people, the woman who'd once cried to me after a breakup, who called me at 2 a.m. when her dad got sick, who once told me she'd take a bullet for me, she was the one to say by sunrise. Something hardened in me. The grief turned to anger, and the anger settled into a cold determination. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to explain. I was going to figure out what the hell was going on, and why she wanted to take me down, and when I found out, I was going to hit back, hard, First, I tried to piece it together logically. $1,000. Cash. In an envelope. That's not normal for Tasha. She didn't deal in cash. She once laughed at a guy for paying at a bar in 20s. She was all sleek credit cards and Apple Pay. Why would she have that money? And why the hell would she leave it in her purse, sitting out in the open, while I was in her apartment? I thought about the way she said it. I had an envelope. Not, I just took out some money, or I was going to the bank. Just, it's gone. And that phrase, you're the only person who's been here, it was too clean. Too rehearsed. I knew then. It was a setup. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized this didn't start with the missing money. It started months ago. Maybe even before I opened the studio, there were signs. The weird shift in her tone when I talked about clients. The jokes about how my rates were too high. The time she accidentally left me off the invite list for a brand launch. A launch for a brand I'd done makeup for. I'd asked her about it, and she brushed it off. Must have been a glitch in the guest list. But now I wasn't so sure. That week, I did some digging. Quietly, carefully, I reached out to my friend Simone, one of the models from the skincare event where it all began. Simone and I had kept in touch over Instagram. She had no idea I'd fallen out with Tasha. Hey girl, I typed. Random question, did you ever end up working with that PR firm again? The one that did the Bright Skin launch. Her reply came 5 minutes later. I did one follow-up job, but it was weird. Tasha said you weren't available anymore. That you were taking a break for personal reasons. My stomach dropped. I wasn't taking a break. I hadn't been unavailable. And I definitely hadn't told Tasha to lie on my behalf. I played it cool. Gotcha. That's weird. She never mentioned that to me. Thanks for letting me know. But in my head, the picture was becoming clearer. Tasha hadn't just accused me of stealing. She'd been eroding my reputation behind my back for months. Quietly. Strategically. Just enough to make people second-guess me. Just enough to make me look flaky, unreliable, like someone who might steal. That's why she set me up, because she was laying the groundwork. Planting the seed, and she was going to make sure when she pushed me off the cliff, everyone would believe I jumped. I spent the rest of the week in a haze, trying to act normal. I still had clients after all. Bills to pay. Appointments to keep. But every time I picked up a makeup brush, I felt numb. Every time my phone buzzed, I flinched, half expecting Tasha to text. She didn't. Not a word. Not even a let's talk, or a maybe I overreacted. Just silenced. I started losing sleep again. Not from sadness this time, from planning, because if she wanted war, she was going to get it. But first, I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with. I pulled out a notebook and started listing everything I could remember about Tasha's career. Her firm, Morgan and Slate. The clients she boasted about. The interns she complained about. The brand she always called her baby, Aura Clean, a sustainable beauty line that had been picking up steam in the last year. That's when I remembered something she'd told me once, back when we were still friends. Aura's thinking of expanding into full-service beauty events, like glam squads for influencers. If it happens, I'm pitching you as the lead artist. At the time, I was thrilled. I thought she was opening a door. Now, I wasn't so sure. I Googled Aura Clean. Their website had just been updated. Sleek. Clean. Lots of pale beige and minimalist fonts. I clicked through to their Creative Partners page. My chest tightened. There was a new name listed as their official lead makeup artist. Kayla Bryant. I didn't know Kayla personally, but I recognized the name. She was up-and-coming, flashy, trendy, big on TikTok. And more importantly, she was close with one person I knew very well, Tasha. I clicked through Kayla's Instagram. Found the post announcing her new partnership with Aura Clean, and there it was. In the comments, Tasha, couldn't think of anyone better to lead this. You're gonna kill it, babe. I felt sick she'd taken that opportunity from me. One she'd promised me. Lied to my face about it. Replaced me not because I wasn't good enough, but because I was no longer beneath her, And that's when I made the decision she wanted to ruin my reputation. Fine. I'd ruin her entire life. The first step was simple. Take her man. Tasha had a boyfriend named Marcus. Tech entrepreneur. 34. Quiet, serious, and until recently, barely a presence in her social media feed. They'd been together about a year. I'd only met him twice, once at a dinner party, once at her birthday brunch. Both times, he was polite but reserved. Not really her type, I'd thought, but he was loaded. And loyal. And judging by how often she complained about him being too soft, probably just bored enough to entertain the idea of someone else. I found him, on LinkedIn. Sent a connection request. Then a message, "Hi Marcus, this is Camille, Tasha's friend. We met at her birthday brunch. I was hoping to ask you something about your startup. Would love to connect." He replied 2 days later, "Hey Camille, of course, I remember you." "Sure, happy to help. What's up?" I reeled him in slow. Asked a few questions about funding. Told him I was thinking of investing in a friend's app. It was a lie, but a good one. He warmed up fast. A week later, we met for coffee, and that's where I'll stop this part because what happened next? That's when things got real. When I say I didn't plan to sleep with Marcus, I'm not lying. It wasn't part of some master plot the first night we met for coffee. I had every intention of keeping things strategic, distant, clean. I thought I'd get in, gather intel, shake the foundation of her world from the inside, and walk away unscathed. But war has a way of changing your limits, and love, even false love, even the love that's laced with manipulation and resentment, can twist everything into something messy and sharp. Marcus had been with Tasha for a year, but he never looked at her the way he looked at me that night in the cafe. His eyes were hungry not for my body, not at first. For connection. For recognition. For something real. The kind of real that doesn't survive long around Tasha, where everything is airbrushed and filtered and posed. I fed that hunger carefully at first. It was innocent. A conversation here, a compliment there. A shared joke about the absurdity of tech world jargon. A text at 10:48 p.m. that said, "Hey, still thinking about what you said. You were right about the rollout being the real product." I replied, "Good. You deserve to be seen." He wrote back, "Not many people really see me." And that was that point 3 weeks after our coffee. We were having weekly calls, just business, but he started confiding in me. About work. About his insecurities. About his relationship. "She doesn't really get it," he said once. "Everything's image. Optics. I'm not a brand. I'm a person." "I get it," I said, soft but steady. I used to feel like a prop in her life, too. We weren't talking about business anymore. When he asked if I wanted to get a drink, as friends, I didn't hesitate. He met me at a rooftop bar in Midtown. The kind of place with $18 cocktails and velvet seats, and a view that made the city look softer than it really was. He wore a black button-down. He smelled like citrus and clean sweat. He was nervous. It was endearing. I wore a navy dress, something that hugged in all the right places. No heels. Just flats, casual, like I wasn't trying too hard. We talked for 2 hours. Then he drove me home. We sat in his car, music low. The kind of music that only plays when silence feels too heavy. I had a good time, he said. Me too. He looked at me, really looked. And then he leaned in, and I let him kiss me. It was warm. Hesitant. Almost apologetic. He pulled back too quickly. "I'm sorry." I smiled. "Don't be." That night, I didn't invite him up. That wasn't the play yet. Not until he was fully mine. Not until I knew he wouldn't run. The next week, he invited me to his place for dinner. "I cook when I'm stressed," he said over text. "You'll be my test subject." I brought wine. He made salmon with rosemary potatoes. We talked about everything but Tasha at least until the second glass of wine. "She thinks I'm weak," he said. "She won't say it, but I see it in her eyes." "She's wrong." He looked at me. "You've known her longer than I have." "I've seen both sides of her," I said. "The charming one. And the one who cuts you down when no one's looking." I thought I was paranoid. "You're not." He kissed me again that night, harder this time, and I didn't stop him. We didn't sleep together, not yet. But he stayed close, held my hand while we watched a movie, brushed my hair off my shoulder, fell asleep with his head on my lap. The next morning, he made me coffee. "Camille," he said, "you make me feel like I'm allowed to be soft." That's when I knew I had him, but I also knew what came next had to be surgical, because sleeping with your best friend's boyfriend is one kind of betrayal. Destroying her career? That's a whole different kind of bloodletting. Tasha worked at Morgan and Slate, the PR firm she never shut up about. She was the star strategist, the youngest team lead. She boasted about it constantly, bragged that she had her boss wrapped around her perfectly manicured finger. But power makes you sloppy, especially when you think no one's watching. I remembered the night she told me about Aura Clean, the sustainable beauty brand she was quietly helping on the side. It was supposed to be a private client, one she handled outside of firm hours. She called it personal consulting, said it didn't violate her contract because she wasn't technically profiting off any existing firm relationships. I knew better. I also knew she used Morgan and Slate interns to prep her side project decks. "I just tell them it's practice," she giggled. "They don't know the difference." She said it like it was clever, but now it was leveraged. I reached out to Bianca, an ex-employee of Morgan and Slate. She left under a cloud. Tasha had thrown her under the bus for a failed rebranding campaign 2 years earlier. Bianca still hated her. "Why are you digging into this?" she asked me over DM. "She lied to me," I said. "And she's still doing the same thing to other people." Bianca sent me screenshots, emails, decks, calendar invites that proved Tasha was double booking client meetings during firm hours, expense reports that didn't line up with her receipts. She'd been padding invoices, too, charging clients for team brainstorms that never happened. IT was altered. I created a burner Gmail, composed an anonymous email to the managing partner of Morgan and Slate. Subject line: urgent, internal compliance violation, Tasha Moore body. Attached are documents suggesting that Tasha Moore has been using Morgan and Slate resources to support a private consulting venture in violation of firm policy. I believe this warrants immediate investigation. Attachments: 9 files. Send. I waited 0.4 days later. The office buzzed with whispers. By the end of the week, her LinkedIn bio had quietly removed Morgan and Slate. No goodbye post. No farewell drinks. Just a disappearing act. I watched it all unfold from a distance, from Marcus's apartment. In fact, he made pancakes that morning. Kissed the back of my neck. "Did you see?" he asked, holding up his phone. "Tasha's out." I played dumb. "Really? What happened?" He shrugged. "No idea. She didn't even tell me. We haven't talked in 2 weeks. You okay?" "I'm more than okay." He kissed me again. I smiled. I'd just taken her job, but I wasn't done, because people like Tasha, they build their lives like pyramids. And you don't just knock off the top. You dismantle it brick by brick. I started with her reputation. I shared Bianca's screenshots with a few key beauty influencers, anonymously, of course. Whispered stories of sabotage. Let it slip that Tasha had warned brands away from hiring certain makeup artists she deemed competition. I knew the right people to send them to. Within days, Tasha's name became radioactive, and no one wanted to be associated with her. Not in beauty, not in PR, not in tech. And then I took Marcus. Not just physically but emotionally. By the time he told me he loved me, she had already texted him 6 times in a row, no reply. She even showed up at his place once, crying. I was there. He didn't let her in. "Why are you here?" he said through the door. "I made a mistake," she cried. "So did I." And that was it. He walked away. Back to me. I watched her walk down his front steps, heels wobbling, mascara streaked. She looked small. For the first time in my life, I wasn't in her shadow. I was holding the light. But you know what they say about light. It casts shadows of its own. I didn't expect to feel empty after it all. I should have felt triumphant. Tasha had lost everything: her job, her reputation, her man. Every thread of her carefully curated image had unraveled, and I was the one who'd pulled the stitches. But instead of relief, I felt hollow. Like I'd built my revenge up so high, only to reach the top and realize I was still standing alone in the wind. Marcus was sweet, attentive, but his presence started to feel heavy. He was too eager, too grateful, too in love. He looked at me like I'd saved him, like I was the solution to a problem that wasn't mine to fix. The truth was, I didn't love him. I never had. I had loved what he represented, a piece of her life, taken. But now that he was mine, completely, he felt like a shadow of the war I'd already won. He sensed it 2.1 night. While we were eating takeout on his couch, he said it. "You've been different lately." I looked up from my noodles. "How?" "Distant. Like you're not really here." I didn't answer. Did I do something wrong? No, I said, and that was the truth. He hadn't done anything wrong. I had built something on the ashes of a lie, and now I didn't know how to live in it. That night, I told him I needed space. He didn't fight me. He just nodded, quiet. "You're the first person who ever made me feel seen," he said. But I think maybe I was just a stop on your way to somewhere else. I didn't correct him. He was right. After Marcus and I drifted apart, I poured everything into my business. My bookings were steady. Word of mouth was spreading. I was finally making money, real money, and I had my pick of clients, but something kept nagging at me. A splinter under the skin? And then the twist at IT started with an email. Subject: "Are you available for a project?" I opened it without thinking. The sender was unfamiliar, Kayla Bryant. Yes, that Kayla. The one Tasha had handpicked to replace me. The one who got the Aura Clean campaign I was supposed to lead. Her email was brief. "Professional, Camille, I've heard great things about your work lately, and I was wondering if you'd be open to collaborating on a new project. It's a campaign for a new skincare line, and I'm heading up the creative direction. I think your style would really suit the aesthetic we're going for. Let me know if you're open to chatting more. Best, Kayla B." I sat back in my chair. What the hell? Why was she reaching out to me? I considered ignoring it, deleting it, blocking her, even. But my curiosity won. I replied, "Hi Kayla, thanks for reaching out. I'd be open to discussing the project. When would be a good time to talk?" Camille, she responded in minutes. We scheduled a call for the next day. I didn't know what to expect. Some awkward small talk, maybe a polite backtrack when she realized I wasn't over what happened. Instead, she opened the Zoom call with a bombshell. "I'm not here to play games, Camille. I know what happened with Tasha." I blinked. "Excuse me?" She leaned back, folding her arms. "I know she tried to sabotage you. I know she accused you of stealing. And I know she lied to Aura Clean about why you weren't hired." I stared at the screen. "How do you know all that?" She shrugged. "People talk." And she pissed off the wrong people at the wrong time. After she got fired from Morgan and Slate, a few former interns came forward with stories. And your name came up more than once. I swallowed. "So, why are you here?" She leaned forward. "Because I want to take her down. Really take her down. Not just her job or her boyfriend. Her entire platform." I frowned. "What platform?" "She's already lost everything." Kayla smirked. "That's where you're wrong." And then she told me Tasha was trying to rebuild quietly under a new name. She'd rebranded herself as Tasha M., a freelance brand strategist and wellness marketing consultant. She was working with influencers under the radar, building partnerships in smaller cities, avoiding the LA and NYC scene entirely. "She's building something new," Kayla said. "And she's doing it smarter this time. Leaner. No firm. No staff. Just her and a few loyal contacts. But give her 6 months, and she'll be back bigger than before." I felt my jaw tighten. "She doesn't get to come back," I said. "Exactly," Kayla replied. "Which is why I'm coming to you." I didn't trust her, not fully. But I couldn't deny how tempting it was. "What do you need from me?" I asked. She smiled. "Proof. Emails. Texts. Anything you have from back in the day, especially anything about how she operated." "Anne." I want you to help me pitch a few of the brands she's courting. Quietly. We'll undercut her, deliver better results, and cut her out before she even gets her footing. It was risky. It was dirty. It was exactly what Tasha would have done, and I said yes. Over the next month, Kayla and I launched our private little war. We tracked Tasha's new ventures through social media breadcrumbs. She followed obscure wellness startups on Instagram. We reached out to them first. She tagged herself at co-working spaces. We offered free workshops there, and I leaked emails. I dug up everything I could, old threads where she bragged about lying to clients, screenshots of her mocking brands behind their backs, DMs where she laughed about manipulating narratives. Kayla had media contacts. She fed them to the right people, a story hit an indie marketing blog, the dark side of influencer PR, a cautionary tale. It wasn't anonymous. They named her Tasha M., real name Tasha Moore, accused of unethical practices, deception, and client manipulation. It went viral in the niche marketing world, and just like that, her second chance burned before it even started. She posted a vague story the next day. Sometimes silence is the loudest scream. And I knew I'd crushed her again. But here's the thing about revenge. It doesn't heal you. You think it will. You think it'll patch over the parts of you that still ache from the betrayal. But once the smoke clears, you're left with the same wounds, just more fire damage around them. Kayla and I had one. We'd buried Tasha, but the celebration felt hollow. I looked in the mirror one night and barely recognized myself. The fire in my eyes was gone. I looked tired, spent, alone, and that's when I made the final decision. I was done with Atlanta, done with the scene, the circles, the constant power plays. I sold my lease, packed my kits, and bought a one-way ticket to Chicago. My cousin had a spare room. I needed space. A new canvas. I didn't tell anyone. Not even Kayla. I left quietly, but Tasha, she found out, because the day I landed in Chicago, I got a voicemail. "No caller ID. Camille," she said, her voice hoarse. "You win. You broke me. I hope it was worth it." And then, after a long silence, "You became worse than me." Clicked. I stared at my phone for a long time. Then I blocked the number. Was she right? Maybe, but some of us don't get the luxury of staying soft. Some of us have to learn to sharpen our pain into weapons, and I did what I had to do to survive. That was the cost. Chicago was colder than I remembered. Not just the weather, though that was biting, the kind of cold that cuts through coats and settles into your bones. It was the silence. The anonymity. The way no one looked up when I walked down the street. No fake smiles. No brunch invites. No whispers behind my back. It was exactly what I needed. For the first time in years, I wasn't Tasha's friend or that girl from the scandal. I was just Camille. Alone. Rebuilding. Again, my cousin, Maya, had offered her guest room for a month or two. She was one of the few people who knew everything. We'd grown up together, thick as thieves, until she moved away for grad school. We hadn't been close in years, but when I called her raw, quiet, unsure, she didn't hesitate. She picked me up from the airport with hot cocoa and silence. That kind of silence only people who love you can give. No questions, no judgment. Just space. "You look tired," she said softly as she drove. "I am." "Then rest first. Start over later." And I did. I slept for 10 hours that first night. Woke up disoriented, the sheets unfamiliar, the air so still I could hear my own heartbeat. I expected to feel lost. But instead, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. The next few weeks were slow. I didn't rush to restart my business. I took on a few freelance jobs, just enough to keep money coming in. I rebranded under a different name, just initials, CJ Beauty. No Instagram selfies. No behind-the-scenes shots. Just clean, curated work. I let the work speak for itself this time, and it did. I started building something quieter, gentler. No scandals. No enemies. Just art. But peace doesn't last forever. It started with a package, no return address. Just my name, written in blocky handwriting. Inside, a USB drive. And a note. You should know the full story before you disappear. That's IT.no signature. I almost threw it away. I should have. But curiosity has always been my downfall. I plugged it into my laptop. There were two files. One was a video. The other, a folder titled, "For Her Eyes Only." I clicked the video first. IT was grainy. Security footage. No sound. A timestamp in the corner, March 24th, 7:58 p.m. the night Tasha accused me of stealing. The angle was from above, a living room camera. Her apartment. I watched myself sitting on the couch scrolling my phone. Then I saw Tasha walk into frame. She looked around, reached into her purse, took out an envelope, placed it on the coffee table. Then, slowly, deliberately, she slid it under a cushion. Her expression was calm, focused. She wasn't panicking. She wasn't forgetful. She was planting evidence. She left the room. A minute later, she came back in, pretended to look for something, lifted the cushion, looked directly into the camera for a split second. Then she turned toward the hallway, where I was, and her expression changed. Alarm. Hurt. Anger. A performance. The accusation was never heat of the moment. It wasn't paranoia. IT was calculated. Cold. She knew I hadn't stolen anything. She set me up. I felt ball rise in my throat. The second folder held screenshots. Messages. Journal entries. They were from her. Or at least, written by her. Entries dated back to a year before the incident. Notes about me. Obsessive. Resentful. She's getting too popular. She's starting to think she's the star. I gave her everything. Why does she need more? Then, darker entries. I'll give her something to cry about. She won't see it coming. I just want her to know what it feels like to lose everything. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. The hate. The fixation. It wasn't a grudge. IT was obsession. Tasha hadn't just wanted me out of her way, she wanted me broken. But the real question was, who sent me this? Only one person could have accessed her footage. Only one person who had lived with her, shared her passwords, known her routines. Marcus. I hadn't spoken to him since Chicago. I'd blocked his number, deleted his photos, but now I unblocked him. Texted one word, "Why?" He replied instantly, "Meet me." We met at a coffee shop near the lake. He looked thinner, tired, older somehow. "Hi," he said quietly. I sat down. "You sent the video." He nodded. "Why?" He looked down. "Because I needed you to know the truth." I already knew the truth. No, you knew your truth. The one you lived through. But you didn't know what she was thinking. How far it went. I stared at him. And now I do. So what, Marcus? You want forgiveness? He shook his head. No. I want you to know. I tried to stop her. That night, I found the envelope in my drawer. She said it was just backup cash. But I knew. Deep down, I knew something was off. And when she cried about you, about how you betrayed her, I believed her. Because I didn't want to believe I'd loved someone who could be that cruel. So you waited a whole year to clear my name? I didn't know how to fix it, he whispered. I didn't know how to come back from what I let happen. I leaned back. You can't. But thanks for the closure. He nodded slowly, then reached into his coat pocket, handed me a sealed envelope. What's this? It's from her. She asked me to give it to you if I ever saw you again. I hesitated, then I took it. The letter was handwritten. Short, "Camille, you destroyed me. But before you did, I destroyed myself. I loved you. As a sister. As a mirror. Maybe too much. You reminded me of who I used to be before the masks, before the games. And I hated you for it. I'm not sorry for what I did. But I am sorry for what I became. You were never the thief. I was Tasha. I folded the letter. Put it in my pocket. Marcus was watching me. What will you do? I don't know, I said honestly, because I'd gotten my revenge. More than once. I'd broken her down. I'd torn apart everything she tried to rebuild. And now I knew. She never stood a chance against her own demons. I was free, but I wasn't untouched. Later that night, I walked to the lake. The wind was sharp, biting my skin through my coat. I stood at the edge, watching the water churn like it was holding secrets. I pulled the letter from my pocket, read it one more time, then I tore it into pieces. Let the wind take it. I didn't need her words. I didn't need her guilt. I didn't need anything from her anymore. That was my final act of revenge. Not fire. Not exposure. Just silence. Just peace. I end Chicago. I built something new. Something mine. CJ Beauty became a quiet success. No fame. No scandal. Just craft. I stopped telling the story. I let the past stay buried, but sometimes, late at night, I think about her. About what we had. About what we lost. About how betrayal can bloom from love when left unchecked. And I wonder, did I win, or did we both just lose differently? If you've made it this far, tell me, was I justified, or did I go too far? Because sometimes I still don't know. But I do know this. Revenge doesn't heal you. It just teaches you how to survive with the wound. And that's what I've done. Survived.